Megan, thank you so much. I think, was it second or third?
Second.
Second? It feels like more in a good way.
I think the first one went longer than we had anticipated.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah. No, it was good.
We were talking about development in Grover Beach, and now we're talking about development in Grover Beach. But here's why. I've been driving down Grand Avenue in Grover, and it is a construction zone.
Yes.
What the heck is going on?
We want answers.
Some really exciting things.
Tell us.
So the first is that our public works department's very, very busy at work, completely renovating West Grand Avenue, close from 4th Street, I believe, beyond 8th. I can't remember which street off the top of my head right now, but the sewer line's getting replaced all along West Grand.
Dang.
So public works is putting in the work and got a really great group of folks out there. And then we also have 401 West Grand Avenue and 402 West Grand Avenue under construction.
Big projects.
Yeah. CCB?
CCB?
Yeah.
Building, what's it?
Coastal Community Builders.
No, I know, but like, what are they? They're building like what's it called?
Place.
So
we are real estate professionals.
Act it out.
Yeah.
Act it out. What are you trying to
It's
say?
like a walls and windows, lots of them, more
like
than
a
one or two.
multi-use? Is that
Yeah,
what you're trying to
mixed
say?
use.
Mixed use.
Yeah,
Commercial and
Yeah, so-
residential top.
That's very sus.
Is that what
That was
you're
not,
getting?
that was not skibbity.
Okay. Oh,
So you have
Whew.
402 West Grand's about 37 units
Yeah.
of studio to 2-bedroom, and they're going to have a really, really nice public open space area up on the rooftop.
Nice.
It is gorgeous. You can go onto their website right now. Palladium. That's the name of it. You
Yeah.
can go onto CCB's website, and the development's called Palladium.
Cool.
And they've got renderings of what it'll look like from the rooftop. And
So
it's
cool.
Fun.
beautiful.
I know. I love that. We really don't have anything like that over there. That's great.
Yeah, and then there'll be a couple different retail spaces down below for restaurant or coffee shop. And then across the street at 401 West Grand Avenue, that's double the size. And it'll be 2 buildings, and same thing, there'll be commercial tenant space below for, again, restaurant retail to create that pedestrian kind of street life. And then above will be, again, in 2 separate buildings. I think it's about 50 some odd, studio to 3-bedroom units.
Dang.
Wow, that's a lot.
So when did that conversation start with the city, and how did that work? And how many iterations did you guys have to go through? Was there some resistance? How does all that stuff work?
Yeah, CCB was great to work with, first of all. They were receptive to all of our comments. The process typically starts with a developer and their representative, typically an architect or some other kind of design professional, approaching us and saying, here's our idea, how do we make it fit? And then that's where we apply our development code, which has all the rules, and we say, this is how tall you can go, this is how many units per acre you can have. Our general plan says that we want to see a lot of pedestrian life in this area. So let's make sure that we incorporate some commercial retail space here. So we take all of that and we give it back. And they then came back and said, hey, we'd really like to get some preliminary feedback from your planning commission before we move forward with a formal application. So they conducted a kind of informal yet formal public hearing, received comments from planning commission, took it and ran with it. And then they submitted a formal application. It went through a couple of different iterations, and now you see what you see.
Dang, how long has it been? That seems quick, but how many?
They came in before I started. So I started in 2023. So they came in 2022.
Okay.
And then in 2023, they were approved. And then beginning of this year, they got started in construction.
Wow.
So about a year.
That does
little
seem
over a year.
generally quick
It
compared
does.
to like how long you hear other things trying to push through. So
I think one of the things that Grover has going for it is the development code is very objective. All of the design standards are laid out. We have checklists. All of our forms really spell out exactly what you have to do in order to move forward. And we have a very progressive planning commission and city council that are excited about growth and are excited to see kind of the change that they had set forth as part of this most recent development code update in 21 and 22. So,
awesome.
we're ready to go is kind of what it is. And we're waiting for people to come in and give us their projects and make the community continue to grow in a good way, sustainable way.
Yeah, well, that's
awesome.
I think one of the big things I wanted to chat about, because I think that could mean different things to different people. And how do you approach that? I had somebody, sort of an acquaintance on Facebook, post something that was basically said like Grover City to Grover Beach to Grover Metropolis. Like I came here because I liked the way that it was. And I understand the sentiment, but it's also, I feel like we've been talking about development a lot in the podcast. It's like, it's not fair to say, well, I got in and no one else can, or I got in and now I want it to stay the way it was when I got in, because I got in and I moved here because I like the way it was and I don't want it to change and all that. And I understand, like, there's things about the area that we love and we want to maintain that. So how do you do that in a way that's like pro-growth, but also keeping the character and the heart of Grover Beach, what we want it to be?
Yeah, so I'd say the character and the heart of Grover Beach lies within our general plan. The general plan is kind of the blueprint of the community, how we want to grow over the next, I think it's 2050, so that we've got about 26 years left before we reach that kind of build out potential. So our general plan lays out all the policies of what we want to see and where we want that growth to occur. Our development code implements that. So all the policies that say we want low density, single, unit development in certain areas, and this is how we want those areas to develop out or not develop out. And then in the higher density areas, this is how we want that to look. And then in our commercial corridor, what kind of potential can we bring to start to attract visitors and give more space back to residents for them to enjoy the community that they live in? And I think that's the big difference, is I don't believe that the code that we have and the standards that we have in place are looking to change any of the residential neighborhoods beyond the character of what exists today. It's the commercial component that we're looking to help bolster, to boost our economy, our local economy, to help boost just that nightlife and that entertainment component that you have to go seek elsewhere if you live in Grover.
Bobby, just to clarify, but nightlife is when you go out.
Same. I'm not like that
Someday.
No, I'm not either. I don't leave my house.
So the general plan, like, just explain what that is, because I think sometimes like people are like, what the heck does that even mean?
Right,
and it's something that a lot of the citizens have input in and like goes through city council. But if you want to explain, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So for example, not for example, I'll give that in a second. So the general plan, as I mentioned, is the blueprint of the community. So think of a map, and then when you're looking at that map, how do you want each area to be designated? You want this to be residential, you want this to be commercial, you want this to be industrial. And then within each of those, what do you want to retain and how do you want it to grow over time? So I use the example low density residential. So in a low density residential neighborhood, maintain the small town, character of the community.
Right.
In a commercial area, you want to promote businesses and economic development to allow for XYZ. And then in the industrial area, attract and retain industrial uses that promote our local economy. So it's all these policies of where you want these areas to go. And then our zoning code or our development code that implements that is how that residential neighborhood then builds out, how that industrial area is allowed to build out, and how you want those streets to be designed. And then again, the commercial component is not necessarily not limiting the types of businesses except by zone, but just limiting how tall you can go, what your lot coverage would be, how to incentivize different types of mixed-use development so that we also bring life to the street. So that's where 401 and 402 come into play. If we come full circle, we provide that retail commercial component that not only supports the residents that are living above, but also supports and benefits the community at large.
Yeah, I was just talking to Philip downstairs. And
Philip downstairs.
Philip downstairs.
Philip.
That's
Shout out.
this guy.
Yeah.
Shout out.
That's
Philip from
wait, I got
downstairs.
this. That's a little sus.
It's a little nice. Well played. Well played.
That's also cringe.
Good job.
What I just did.
Wow. It's gonna be a good one, guys. We're on fire.
Yeah.
So he was talking to a few business owners in Pismo, and he was asking them what they felt about all the development that has happened in Pismo with the hotels going up and stuff. And they were pretty honest. And they said sometimes it can get a little crazy with traffic and people and all that, but generally they're really happy because of the business that it's brought them and really supported they own small businesses and bringing visitors in a way that's sustainable as well, which I'm kind of curious how you guys, probably the general plan also dictates kind of like traffic and how do you think about all those kinds of things, but like it's been good for them. And I think still has kept the character of Pismo Beach but also created some opportunities. So it's cool to hear that Grover Beach is thinking along the same lines like that. So that's all.
Yeah.
That was
Good job,
Phil
Philip.
from downstairs.
Good job.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Philip.
Thanks, Philip. How do you get feedback besides me telling you Facebook stories from the community? How does that work? And how do you weight those kinds of comments?
Public input, community engagement, I think is one of the most important pieces of my job. But in terms of process, so a project comes in like 401 or 402, and the first step that people have to become involved is when we publicly notice that project. So we put out a notice in the newspaper 10 days prior to the public hearing, and then people have the opportunity to come. The notice says, please come and provide your comments. Let us know how you feel about it, what you support, what you have concerns about. Your questions will be answered. They come to that public hearing. Hopefully they provide comment, and then if anybody is what's called aggrieved, it could be you, the developer, it could be a neighbor, right? The developer says, I don't like that you told me I had to do this to my project. I want 4 stories and you told me 3. They could appeal that to the city council, that decision to the city council. Or it's a neighbor who just says, I don't want any new mixed use building going in next to me. They'll appeal that decision to the city council. And then the same process gets repeated. It gets publicly noticed in the paper. It says, please come. You're going to be hearing this appeal. Come hear both sides, provide any public comment or input that you want, or submit written comments if you don't want to be on camera, which probably.
Sorry, my bad.
Did you not mention that?
I thought I did. I thought the last one was, but
No,
it wasn't.
it's okay.
And now I feel bad.
No, it's okay.
Very sus.
So then they come to city council, and it again repeats the same process. And then if somebody is still aggrieved after that point in time, then it turns into civil and goes down a different track that I'm hopefully no longer involved in. But so there for project based development, that's how people get involved. But for bigger projects, like we come back to a general plan or development code, we're going through a development code amendment and update right now. I'm working with our new senior planner, Kyle Bell, who you know.
Yeah, Kyle. Shout out Kyle from downstairs.
I was going to say upstairs.
Yeah, from downstairs.
No, I
He's an
think
amazing guy.
he is actually. Big shout out to Kyle. He's been a great addition to our team, but he just recently got engaged. So congratulations to Kyle.
Congrats, buddy. That's cool.
Yeah. So he and I are collaborating on our development code amendment. And when you have a bigger project like that, there has to be a scope. We can't allow what's called scope creep and just keep moving out and out and out. But so we have certain changes that we're making to those standards that we would apply to development. So we have those changes. We went out and we said, hey, we're going to have a public forum, and we want anybody from the community that's interested to come and provide input. So we held a public forum that's completely separate from Planning Commission, has nothing to do with decision makers. It's just come and share your ideas with us. Let us know if we missed the mark or if you want to give us any additional input.
Ooh, that's gutsy.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question about that because
I think about 4 people showed up.
Oh,
4 or 5
really?
people.
Did you put it in the paper? We might need to go to social media.
We
Yeah.
did social media.
Okay.
Yeah,
no
we
way.
did social
Facebook
media.
too? Facebook's?
I don't-
Facebook? You're into Facebook lately.
Well, that's where I get a lot of
Face
like
pages?
nasty comments. I hear about
yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
Facebook's the place.
And we also put out a public survey through our website. So we got pretty good responses there. I think 30 to 40 comments on that.
That's
But,
good.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone who's been in leadership anywhere has this problem of making sure people feel heard even when you don't do the thing that they want you to do. How do you do that?
On the fly, every single time.
I feel like you're very good at
You are
communicating,
good at
and you're
communicating.
very responsive, and you're very personable, very empathetic. You are
Thank
really
you.
good at your job.
Thank
So
you.
so you're the pro. Tell us, how do we do it?
Yeah.
No, literally on the fly every single
Yeah.
time. I mean, it really depends. I think at the end of the day, communication is one person wants to be heard and listened to, and sometimes they're willing to stretch and or switch their opinion. But at the end of the day, sometimes they're not, and that's okay. And it's just about having honesty and integrity back to say, I hear you, but it's not that way, but come. And fortunately, I can always rely on our public process. It's always about the process.
Yeah.
This is where you can come and express your opinions, and if you continue to be aggrieved, this is the next step in that process.
Yeah.
So again, if you're not able to solve the problem, at least tell them what the next step is, so that there is a known, right? Because that can be really scary for people that have very strong opinions, is the unknown.
It's going into a black hole or something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to circle back to infrastructure, because you mentioned the new sewer line going in. Is that because of the project that CCB's doing, or is that completely independent and just happened to correlate? And whose responsibility is that? Like, when you do a project like they're doing, how much like sidewalk and infrastructure is the developer responsible for? And what's the dance like with the city on those kinds of things?
Yeah, so let's say West Grand Avenue street improvements weren't happening at all. Any new development is required to upgrade and complete public improvements along any frontage where their development's happening. So for example, the new hotel, 950 El Camino Real, that entire sidewalk frontage is all going to be improved to meet this specific standards for El Camino Real that's identified in our circulation element, as well as our capital improvement program. So, which outlines like how streets, how sidewalks, et cetera, and all of our sewer infrastructure, et cetera, gets improved over time. Now add in the West Grand Avenue streetscape project. So all of those lines were already slated as a part of our capital improvement program. So there's a whole list of projects within that are funded, and that is how that's moving forward. So CCB is also responsible for improving the frontages along 4th and West Grand. They're going to be installing some bulb outs. They're going to be installing some accessible, I think it's the accessible pavers, the little yellow guy, the bum.
Oh yeah.
They look like bumble strips.
Yeah, little
What
rumble
are they?
strip.
Yeah. Both of our hands are like. Anyway, so they're going to be responsible for doing all of those sidewalk improvements, and as well as some additional landscaping. But everything else is on the city's funded through the city. I think they might tie in on the 401 side from 5th Street into West Grand, but that's getting a little bit too detailed.
Yeah.
So.
Just awesome.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. So you mentioned in this mixed use development that the city requires that there's some sort of a commercial space. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth. Below street level. What words, man?
At ground level.
At ground level? What? All that.
This in the evening is
It's
hard.
so hot.
It's like we're recording this at probably 5:30 in the evening.
all-
We're
It's
all
90 degrees in
sleepy.
here.
It's 100 degrees in this room, and words are very
I feel
difficult.
like we're doing pretty good. All things
well,
considered.
she's
Yeah, we're
doing
doing great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Megan's keeping us together. My question is,
Be clear.
there is a question here.
Okay.
Why is that so important for the city and the residents? You kind of touched on it, but if you could sort of double click on it, I'd love to hear why you think that's so important.
Yeah, so the commercial component's not a requirement. However, it is something that we incentivize.
Okay.
And so, again, it's, hey, our general plan wants to see commercial retail and restaurant space to kind of bring more of the community to West Grand, to give the community members a benefit, something that they can do in the evenings for date night, something that they can do on the weekends instead of having to go to Pismo or AG or San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
Oh man, now my brain's going to trail off. It is hot in here.
Well,
it's really hot.
It's not an absolute requirement, but it is something that when it is provided, it not only benefits the neighbors upstairs, but it benefits the community at large.
Well, I mean,
and also helps with our local economy because we're bringing people here.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I had somebody reach out. I can't give names because I have a terrible memory, but I had somebody reach out just recently that was interested in contacting CCB regarding a tequila distillery.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to move into one of the...
it was me.
Yeah, it was.
Tequila.
Approved. I approve that.
I know. Well, I think I got a little bit excited.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry, you want what?
Yeah.
Come on. Yes.
Well, there is
Amazing.
that distillery around the corner on 4th.
Yes.
Aguardente, what's it
Wait,
called?
what?
Yeah.
In Grover?
Yes.
There is.
It's so awesome.
It's hidden, and that's even cooler. It's
It
just
is.
behind it, or it's like a block away from 5 Cities Homeless Coalition.
Yeah. It's super cool. They do like grappa and gosh, I should know this.
It's okay if you don't.
I don't.
He
Anyway,
started- he
it's a
started
distillery
there
and it's
before me.
awesome. And the
Yeah.
guy's Portuguese, and that's cool too.
That is cool.
That is very cool.
Because I'm Portuguese.
Okay.
Really?
Fun fact.
That
Fact
tan,
check me.
That tan tells us
Yes,
you are.
tan. And Bobby was wondering if down below in the commercial space we could put like a Taco Bell, but like a really
Okay.
upscale
Now he's calling me out.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell? We don't have a Taco Bell in Grover, do we?
Well, that we do. We do.
Oh, is that
It's right
considered
next to
Grover?
Bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Oak
thought
Park
that
is
was-
kind of the dividing
Okay.
line.
Okay,
but
so
but
Grover's
two's
good.
better than
That's
one.
South Grand.
Two's better than one.
Yeah. I love Taco Bell.
I love it because we have some great restaurants and places like that, but often I think people might go into Slow or something,
For
to
the
go on
nightlife.
date night for the nightlife. But man, if you could just stay in Grover,
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
amazing.
And that's part of my job. So I wear many hats, but one of them is I've been working with our city manager, Matt Bronson, to kind of put more of the economic development hat on, which kind of puts me more in your shoes. I have to kind of act as almost like not a broker, but a realtor. Like I'm trying to market Grover Beach to bring people and entice people to come. But it also means that I'm reaching out to existing property owners to say, hey, you've owned this property for the last 20 years. It's underutilized. What would you like to do with it? I can draw you up something. I can show you everything that would be possible, and let's talk about it. So,
How fun.
That's
so
cool.
You get to use your imagination and envision all of it.
Which is the part that I did in school. And then I got into public sector planning, and I was like, this is not a visioning project at all. I'm being told what to do by decision makers,
Right.
and I have to follow all the rules in this zoning code. So
That's very cool.
So yeah, that's the part of my job that I really like the most. It'd be the same if like a single family residence came and said, hey, I want to put a couple more units on my property. What's the highest and best use of my site? And then I get to walk them through that process.
That's rad. I didn't think about that. That's like
I
part
guess
of
I didn't
it.
cross my mind that you.
That's cool.
Do you do
give
that?
us a list. We'll
One of
start.
the-
get
Yeah,
this
we'll
guy to
call him. Yeah, we'll call him.
I mean, one of the, I think, shout out to realtors. I mean, you guys do the hard stuff every single day, but you call us and let us know, hey, I got this site, this address. My client wants to put 4 units on it. What's possible?
Yeah.
And we'll let you know. 2 stories, ADU, JADU, single family residence, detached secondary.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things on the development side that come to mind. One is that this is not being done haphazardly. There's a plan that's been in existence that dictates a lot of this while allowing some flexibility and incentives. So I think the heart behind it is to grow in like you said, a sustainable way that keeps the character of the town. And that's awesome. I think the other thing too is like, it's easy for people to go to like growth, bad, small, good, but bringing, and I think doing it in a sustainable way is probably the key, but if we can bring people in, it bolsters the local economy and it gives local residents options too. And it's like, it's a double-edged sword. I understand that. But I mean, I think we were talking with Mayor Karen a couple weeks ago about Arroyo Grande and just SLO County in general. It's like, we want our kids to be able to stay here. And it's really tough because there's not a lot of head of household jobs. And so, if we want our kids to stay here, if we want home prices to be reasonable, it's like you kind of have to develop and you have to bring industry in, and then that requires some housing and all these kinds of things. And so we have to grow if we want our kids to be able to stay and be able to buy homes and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's like, I mean, this sounds like this is your wheelhouse, but getting people to kind of pull back and think about this on a larger scale, like multi-generations down the line, and the kind of lives that they want to live and experience the beauty of the Central Coast like we have, just in a different way maybe. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I know, you just so fun.
Well, and I think that that's an important message to give to community members too, that as you put it, don't really want to see that growth. It isn't being decided upon haphazardly. There's a lot that goes into our recommendation to the decision makers. We have to review that application that comes in, not just against our codes, like our local codes, but California Building Code standards. And in that, there's just a whole host of things that have to be adhered to.
Yeah.
Different types of materials, how, if it's a commercial space, how accessible is it for everybody to be able to access? There's just so many things that go into our review. Environmental review is huge. We don't just look at something and kind of go, well, it fits the mold. Okay, let's move on. There's still this element of, okay, you might add traffic here. What does that look like? You, the developer, need to show us, give us a traffic study. Hey, you're building right next to a railroad. You, the developer, need to show how how noise would be impacted on those residents, as well as how that development's going to impact the residential neighborhood. So all of these things go into
so
it.
much.
And then we present that to the decision makers and say, hey, the impact here is significant or less than significant. We did the work for you. Now, do you think that this meets our general plan? Do you think that it is consistent with our codes? Do you want to move it forward? So it's not just kind of, yes, we want growth, let's go. It's, we do, but you also have to meet all of these rules, and you also have to comply with California Environmental Quality Act. And then you can move it forward.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
There's so many moving
It's
parts.
kind of why it's expensive. to be a
Yeah.
developer.
Oh my God, don't get me started on that. Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it's-
go. Ready, go.
Well,
it is challenging. I mean, like,
think-
it's not from the local government. I would say it's more like
it's state
stuff that is just tough.
It is really, really tough. If you want to build anywhere in the county, oftentimes, I mean, most of the developable areas of the county are already built. And so everything that people are looking to explore as far as like highest and best use or best opportunities, not even for something like a large subdivision, but even their small little single family house, it's up a 30% slope, and you got to pay $500,000 to grade it and pave it because it exceeds some 12% standard that CAL FIRE must meet in order for them to access your property so that you're safe in case it catches on fire. I mean, it's just the places that you can now build are getting tougher and tougher to actually develop because of all the environmental resources that you end up impacting, and then it ends up costing more. So, it's just never mind. Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
It's good to understand
Yeah.
it. Because
Yeah.
especially like with clients, we always have people, well, I should say I've always had, I love the dreamer client, but they're like, yeah, I want to put a shed right here, and I'm going to live in it, and I'm going to do all these things. And it's like this whole plan, but it's what it realistically takes to make all those things happen. It sounds really simple in theory. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Well,
involved.
It's a lot.
Container homes, It's
Hell
like
yeah.
That's what I was
Ba-
thinking of, not a shed.
yeah, they do the container homes like, oh, it's gonna be so cheap and easy, and you're like, oh, it's gonna cost more. Yeah.
It could, especially if it doesn't meet building code requirements, and then people get excited about something and you want them to be able to have their dream, but unless you can find an alternative method or an alternative material to meet whatever that standard is in the building code, you're out of luck.
Thank God for developers, honestly, who do this all day and just put a lot on the line for these kinds of things and take the risks
Put
and do
so
the
much on
work.
the line.
Oh my gosh, it's great. Megan, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
We
So
got
fun.
we asked you the 4 questions we normally ask every guest. We've got some new ones.
I know. I noticed you mixed it up. I like
Well, we
it.
do.
on your toes.
We got to
Kick us
keep her on
off
our
there,
toes.
sir.
Okay, here we go. Question number 1. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
I have been wanting to plan a trip. It's not going to happen, but
Not with that kind of attitude.
Whoa.
Come on,
Whoa.
Megan. We'll
We'll
have a
get-
therapy session after.
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But I would really like to do a Spain, Portugal, Azores trip. I just kind of
that'd
want to
be
hit
amazing.
all 3 and then possibly never come back
Oh yeah.
for good reasons, not because it was my demise.
Taken out in the
Yeah.
Azores.
Slow to V.
What's the?
I want to say
crime
that's the
rate?
distillery. Sorry, the Portuguese thing.
Slow to
Oh,
V.
so V.
I think it's
okay,
slow to
got
V.
it.
It's great.
Okay.
Anyway, that sounds like a
That
cool
sounds
trip.
amazing.
Why
Yeah.
that? Why there?
So a while ago, I worked with a gentleman whose family was from the Azores, and I had never heard of it. And I looked up pictures, and I just thought that it looked incredible. And then I've had a few friends that have done Portugal and Spain, and they had nothing but great things to say about it.
Yeah.
I would love to go.
My dad's family is from the Azores, and I'm trying to get him to go.
Really?
But he's not a big traveler, so I'm just gonna have to buy
Just take
I'm just
him.
gonna have to buy
Yeah,
the
just plan it.
trip
Take her with you.
and drug him.
I've been trying to take my dad to Ireland since I was like born,
Yeah, it's
and
still
it's,
not
I don't
taking
think
it.
it's
Not happening.
maybe someday in a different way.
In a different
Okay.
way.
Well, if you happen to go to the Azores before I do, I need a full recap.
I will.
Sounds
You can have
amazing.
me back on, and we'll just have an
Just
Azores fact
Azores.
check.
Just a vacay.
Portuguese and Azores
Yeah,
fact
that's
check.
so
I
cool.
love it. I love it.
I love this next question. If you could have lunch or dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I didn't have to think as long and hard about this as I thought that I would have to. I did come up with a few people, but then I was like, well, I was told I can't say that on the air. So I actually think, is it Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth II?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe might be a little bit boring because she just was so proper her entire life, but she lived through such an incredible era and met so many people. She's got to have so many cool stories. I don't
Yeah.
know. So I thought
That's cool.
that would be
I like
kind of
that.
cool.
I think that's a good
Um,
one.
It'd probably be kind of a good meal, too.
Right?
Yeah.
When was she
Was she
alive?
cooking? Is
Do you
she
know the
cooking for
years?
you?
Do we
got
know
servants
this?
cooking.
Since the early 1900s, and then just a couple years ago,
Oh, this is that queen.
that queen,
The one with
the
you
most
know.
Oh,
recent
with the most
one.
recent queen.
Yeah.
Prince Harry's grandma?
We just
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
huge
yeah.
funeral.
No, I heard.
That's
My brain went to like
She like
hundreds
never,
of years
Oh.
ago.
She like never fell asleep
She-
like ever at anything. So she
Wait,
was
what?
like she never like they were like she went to all these really boring things all
She a
the time.
vampire?
Oh, and she
Like,
stayed awake.
what she like stayed awake through them.
Other
I could
people.
ask her about
That's
that.
Yeah.
how
Like,
do you
you-
do
Will
that?
you put
Yeah.
that on your list, please?
Like
Very
this,
quickly.
can.
like this
I can.
podcast.
We're
she
getting
didn't,
She made- she made it through.
fall asleep.
All right, my turn. Okay, I love this question. I love that you added this. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I guess it would be. I guess it would be two things. My dad told me a long time ago to never follow my heart and only follow my head. I know a lot of people would say that you should do the opposite, but essentially like think before you do anything. I struggle with that. So I think it's a really good piece of advice. And then the second one would actually just be one that I kind of have been telling myself a lot lately, which is, every single day you want to give 100%, but some days you can't, and it's just 30%. And that's okay. That's the 100% that you gave that day. So don't be too hard on yourself about it.
Ah.
And then the next day you can come back and make up for it and do 170% to make something for
There you
that.
go. There you go.
But
Nice.
yeah, so every single day, don't worry, it's your 100%.
I like that.
That's
That's
good.
cool.
A true mama.
Yep.
Jeez, you get it.
Okay, final question. If you weren't doing community development, what other career do you see yourself pursuing?
I'd go back in time and I would have invested in Bitcoin, Tesla.
Yeah.
Retired.
I'm a lottery winner. That's my other. I just want to be rich, so I can afford to live in this county.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, probably some kind of real estate investment and redevelopment. I thought that's what I wanted to do when I first got into community development was redevelopment. There was this whole the redevelopment agency. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was disbanded anyways. They'd essentially go to old sites. They're called brownfields, and they'd redevelop them into something with more purpose. So it could be like probably something like that. But real estate likely.
You're
Just
not that
fun.
far off.
Yeah.
No,
seems like that.
I'd be trouble if I quit my job and I started it as a realtor.
I might need to talk to you after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Recruit.
have more
Right.
questions for you.
Yeah,
it
get a new
turns out.
license.
Yeah,
You may have just bought yourself a job.
yeah. Megan, thanks again for being here and talking with us. It's always great to have you, and we really appreciate your time
Have
Thank
me
you.
in an
Anytime.
evening
So fun.
away from your kiddos.
Plan
Yeah.
that trip,
Thank
girl.
you. Yeah, appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All
Thank you
right.
so
Okay.
much.
Bye.
Bye.